Hi guys, welcome back to the 67 Hail Hail channel on YouTube with me, Hamish Carton. We've got another pretty tough episode to do, guys, because it went wrong on Sunday again at Ibrox. A 4-1 defeat against Rangers, 10-2 on aggregate this season. We've got a lot to tackle, Jackie. I take it you saw the game, just more bad stuff to put on to a bad season.
Yeah, disappointing. I think they started the game quite well. I thought it was, a good start to the game. Possibly should have been up in the match. Then, the McGregor's a good save, hits it onto the bar, and they got and scored at the other end. And obviously get down to 10 men with a second yellow for Callum, which I thought was a bit harsh at the time. Considering they played on and they got the goal from it. And it did change the game. Not just the goal, but obviously going down an extra man. And at that point, he's decided to go with the 4-3-2, which Brendan done a couple of years ago when Murty was in charge. But that was the last, later. That was further on in the match. I thought it wasn't the right call at that point to do that. It left us really exposed down in the wide areas. Overloading between you see where the goals come from. Barisic getting in that last third and picking out his crosses and. I just thought, maybe looking at there, I think, John, if you looked at it again, he maybe would have put another midfielder on, maybe Sorrow at that point to help, because all respect to Elyounoussi and to Turnbull, they're not defensively minded. I thought they got overrun in midfield, and it was just, it was very open, the game as well. Then when you before they got their second, Turnbull should have possibly scored with a header, and they got up and scored from that. So, and obviously then they've been chasing the game. I think there was a wrong call to go with the 4-3-2 at that point. I think he should have stayed in the game, and stopped him coming forward in the wider areas and shot across in the 4, which is a tough shift for Eduardo up front. But at least if you're in the game, then you can maybe go for the last 10-15 minutes. So it's maybe a bit naive in that sense.
It's interesting that you point out that John Kennedy basically, copied that Brendan Rodgers tactic from the game, and I think it was March 2018. I didn't notice that, actually. Is that almost symptomatic of John Kennedy as a manager? He's maybe following things he's seen in the past and continuing things on without, or rather than putting his own stamp on it, Jackie?
I can see why he's doing it, because he wanted to carry a threat. They wanted to there, but I think you can do that if you've got a 3 in there that can work hard and shuttle across and make it really difficult for Rangers. So you're actually leaving space in between. If the fullback is getting forward, one of the two that you're leaving up there can get in there, and it's a game of bluff at that point. You're sacrificing an extra man in midfield. But I don't think. I think with the personnel that he had, as I said, Elyounoussi isn't a defensive-minded midfielder. So you'd hit Brown in the middle, which I felt sorry for him, in fairness, because Turnbull was on the right hand side of him and you had Elyounoussi on the left, and it was just waves of attack against him at times there, and for the fullbacks, I thought it was a real tough shift for the fullbacks. If Kent or that going into little pockets and turning around at him, then you get overlapping from Tavernier or Barisic other side. I thought they were really exposed, and I thought he had to kind of solidify his midfield, and later on in the game, if it's nothing much in it, then you can put 2 up and go with the 3 in the midfield. But I just think, looking back at it, I think he'll regret, his decision at that point. And in fairness to him, that's, you're in there, it's easy to sit there and watch it after the event, and you could have done this and done that. You've seen Brendan doing it against Murty a few years ago, but I think different circumstances. It was a lot later on in the game. Callum getting set off quite early. Which the game was, it actually wasn't a bad game to start with. It was quite open and attacking both teams. I thought Celtic started the game really well.
Yeah, apart from that first derby this season, we've been in all the derbies. We've had chances in all of the games, and we've lost 4 out of 5 and drawn the other one played that game days after they'd just played in the Europa League against Slavia Prague. So whatever way you look at it, it's just been a horror season in the derby matches and in every aspect. Euan, do you think John Kennedy will have regrets about the fact that he's not done things really his own way in this stint as interim manager? He's just, in my opinion anyway, just continued on from Neil Lennon and basically got the same results.
I think it's a difficult situation for him, regardless of whatever way you look at it. He was kind of beholden to the personnel that he had. He couldn't really add anything, obviously, because the January window had passed, and even then, I don't really. I mean, who would you have added at short notice? Is the thing. I think in-game management, like Jackie was saying, I think that's something that you really have to learn over time and with experience. And I think John Kennedy showed that kind of lack of experience with how he set up initially, responding to the signing off. Whether or not you actually think it was a sending off, it did leave us in a lurch. And so I think you'll be happy with how he started the game. And I think there have been performances that have been, decent under John Kennedy. It's just difficult because, it's a weird interim time because he can't, he's got too long to just carry on with what the last manager was doing or making minor tweaks. He's tried to introduce wholesale changes at times and then, arguably, you could say maybe lacked courage in certain situations, going with team selections that didn't really work for Lenny. So, yeah, it's tough for him. Obviously, there are elements he could have done a lot better, obviously. But again, like you say, that's kind of with hindsight. I don't think, maybe Scott Byrne aside, I don't think too many people could have been annoyed with how we started against Rangers. So, I don't know. It's tough to say. And it's one of the tougher caretaker gigs I've seen, really. So yeah, it's a difficult situation for him for sure.
Yeah, Jackie, just in terms of Callum McGregor, I think we're all big fans of Callum McGregor. Do you think he let himself down a little bit with that second challenge going in on a booking, and do you think that's a bit of a concern when he's been hyped up as our next captain?
Over concern about it. I think it's just an intent to go and get stuck in and win the ball. Actually, when in lifetime, I actually thought the referee was in the way. When he was standing at the time, I thought he'd kind of got in the way of it, and he just kind of rushed out. But as I said, he played advantage, and they've scored from that. So I thought that it was quite harsh getting that second yellow. Some of the tackles there that didn't get yellow cards. I thought he was quite inconsistent with some of his decisions. He's very quick to do that at the time because he's seen the ball in the net and he's already got the card out and sending him off, which is disappointing. But I wouldn't be too worried about the future. Sorry, but with that side of it, I think it's a bit of frustration there that he went there, but he's went with the intent to go and win it.
Right, we'll move on then from the horrors of Ibrox onto things that aren't much better, guys, because Celtic were taking part in the social media boycott over the weekend and into Monday. They did then tweet, I think they've tweeted a couple of times at the time of recording during Tuesday, although they've not exactly come back with a bang because supporters, I think, are left quite frustrated by the couple of bits of news we've had out of Celtic today. The main one that came out earlier on was the huge news, Euan, that they've moved the St Johnstone game forward by, I think, 90 minutes next week. There's a lot of frustration out there at the moment with the Celtic support, and the club aren't really helping themselves when we just get nothing from them at all.
No, and it's the folk like the SLO and the social media team that I feel most sorry for here, because they're taking a lot of flack that they really, really shouldn't be. I think the club's completely abdicated responsibility over the messaging, over communication with the supporters, and I think a lot of people who work very, very hard are getting a lot of... their work can't be pleasant at the moment, because whatever they announce, it's not... If it's not the addition of a new manager or a new director of football, they're going to get in an egg all day. And the anger from supporters is righteous, and I get that entirely, but I actually wrote an article about this earlier on. It's a total shooting the messenger exercise until the board are willing to actually say, right, we've got some actual news for supporters to latch onto here, go and write it. Because until then, they're just going to be bombarded with stuff. And I feel terrible for them. I really, really do. Not that they probably need my sympathy much, but it's very sad that people are getting put in this position where, they're not responsible for what the club's saying, but they're responsible for how it gets out. And it can be a good situation. But in terms of what the club are saying or not saying, I have played for patience before, but that's coming into May now, and we're still no clearer. But I think the best sign would be if the Celtic board put out a denial that someone was coming in, because that would mean someone's coming in. So that would be quite good.
Jackie, I feel like every single week we have you on and we ask you what's going to happen. Are they any closer to appointing a manager? Just like the rest of us, you don't know. What can we read into the fact that there's been nothing today? Do you think they're still a good bit away from being able to announce a manager and or sporting director?
I would imagine that they're working behind the scenes. That's because there's no information. I think, you touched on the SLO and the guys doing the social media. They'll be just as impatient to find out what's going on because it makes their job easier. But I think you just got to trust the process and hopefully that they get the right person in, the right people in, because they're clearly obviously working behind the scenes doing that. And I would imagine that it will be, soon, because it has to be. It has to be soon because you have to get the players recruited, the players that are going to leave, the players ready for the European qualifiers. So, the fact that we've not heard anything, I'd imagine, that obviously Dominic Mackay went in nearly 2 weeks ago now. You'd imagine that they'll be working behind the scenes, try to get everything done because it is a big decision. You don't want them to rush it. You don't want to get it wrong because it's such a big change. It's not just a manager. There's a lot of things changing, and a lot of players going to be changing this summer. So there's a lot of things that need to be right, and hopefully with them taking that extra bit of time, that will be the case.
Yeah, it's just frustrating from a fan's point of view because we've had yet another bad result at the weekend. We've had, that result's probably not even in the top 5 of horrendous results this season, and it was absolutely terrible. We've probably had worse performances and even worse results than that. And you're hoping that after that boycott of social media at the weekend, the club have something up their sleeve to get the support back on side. They're going to hit us with, an appointment of a good manager, maybe even failing that, some sort of communication from Dominic Mackay saying, this is what we're looking to do in the future, but you just get nothing again, and what you do get just seems completely tone deaf, Euan.
Aye, and I've got to imagine it's really stressful for the players as well. Jackie, from a player's perspective, obviously it took a wee while before Martin O'Neill came in, and there were all these rumours after the John Barnes experiment, if you will. What was that like, that sort of transition period when there's going to be big change? Does that kind of put everyone on their toes, or is it? How does it sort of feel?
It does, but to be honest, it doesn't change. I had, I think, 6 managers at my time. It's my 10 years at Celtic. So there's change there, and every time as a player, you're right, I'm going to be in the manager's plans. You think, even if you're out of contract, if you're not in contract. So it doesn't change, even if the manager was there and still, everything was going great. But the club still moves forward, and are they going to replace you with someone younger or that they think's better than you? So it shouldn't affect the players, but it clearly is. You see it every day. There's another player linked to a move down south, and another player linked to a move down south. But I can't see anything happening until the people at the club come in, the director of football, the manager, and different things. So I think there's so many things that need to be resolved once that happens.
Yeah. Well, I keep saying on these videos, we have to hear something for the club this week. No, really, this week we have to hear something, and it's the following week. And at the end of the day, the club will communicate with us when they want our money. Is that not the reality, Euan? That the minute they want season ticket money, that's when we'll hear from them?
I wish it weren't, no, because you don't see. I can't think of too many other clubs that that kind of behave like that. There should be such a better relationship between at least like intermediaries, more of an SLO between the board and the supporters, because it's chronic. It's chronic mismanagement. And yeah, the likelihood is that until it's season ticket time, we probably will. Unless there's an announcement, and here's God hoping there is, but it just seems very cynical. And it takes for granted the support that plows so much money into the football club. to just kind of leave us hanging like this is pretty poor, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, unless they bring out another chocolate bar or something, that was a big deal last time, or there's new kits or something. But you've got to assume it's going to be before then. I know exactly what you mean, because like on the site as well, every week we're saying like, oh well, it's got to be soon, and it's who knows.
Yeah, well, that's the bad news, Jackie. The good news is that we've done our final post-derby aftermath video. I think this is the 5th one we've done. Not one of them has had any sort of positive slant. Even the draw felt like a defeat. Maybe next season we'll have a bit more luck. But I do appreciate both of you joining me on this one. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video as well. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you've not done it yet, and I'll speak to you next time.